Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, DeQuell Jackson, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Athletes Unplugged. Today's guest is a guy I know very well. You may have seen him on ESPN's Get Up and First Take in the morning with Stephen A. Smith and Molly Curran. Or you may have read some of his work with The Undefeated, which is a platform focused on the intersections of race, sports, and culture. And he's my good friend and neighbor, Domonique Foxworth. Nick, thanks for doing this, brother.
Oh, happy to do it. I'm glad we can make the times work. You're a busy man.
No, you're the busy man. Hold on. First of all, where are you right now?
I'm in my basement. I'm in the theater room. You act like you ain't never been in here before.
I couldn't get the better setup that you did. The backdrop, the shelves.
This is the better setup. The other setup looks good, but this one sounds better. Since we're doing a podcast, there's carpet in here. It's soft. This is where I do Domonique's podcast once a week. This is where I record podcasts from. I gave you the good setup.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. So as we were talking beforehand, you're a very good friend of mine. You were one of the first people that I had an encounter with, which I'll get into that later. But when I got to Maryland, we'll get into that later. But I noticed there was two things that I'd already known about you. But as I did more research, I realized it was something that was reoccurring from the very first moment you moved from Oxford, England, and transitioned to the DMV area. And that was education and that was writing. So my question to you is, at what point in the Foxworth household did education become so important? Because it seems to me graduating high school early is a huge feat. Graduating college early is a huge feat. So again, when did that become such a stronghold in the Foxworth household?
To be honest with you, it was my dad was in the military. So he was going to college as soon as he was going to college while he was in the military. So he was poor in Charlotte in a neighborhood called the Rocks. And when you a poor Negro from the Rocks, when you graduate high school, you go into the military. So he went in the military, but he'd always wanted more for himself. So when I was a kid, he was in college. My mom went to graduate school while I was in high school, I think, on and off. So I think it was just example they set. And also just I don't know, I'm competitive. And even though the schools that I went to, the grades were not celebrated, my friends were not, we weren't competing. My daughter got really upset a couple of days ago because she got a 91 and some of her friends got 100 on some tests. And she was really upset. And she's 11. And I'm like, 91? That's not pretty good to me.
91 is a lot better head start than I had.
Yeah, so they're competitive over grades, but I guess I was just also competitive. It was I don't know. I want to do well at this thing. If I'm doing it, if I'm gonna come to school, might as well.
But see, that's where you like to undersell yourself, because the high school you went to was a technology and environmental science high school. That to me sounds different. I
didn't want to go there. I hated that place. I liked it when I got there. So my elementary school and middle school was they weren't that great. They weren't very good. And the home high school is Randallstown in my neighborhood, and it also was not very good. And so my brother went to a magnet school called Western Tech, and I didn't want to go, but my mom made me go. I didn't want to go because the football team was 2 years old. All I cared about, I wanted to play football. And Randallstown was good at damn football. They wasn't good at reading and writing, but they were scoring these touchdowns. That's why I wanted to go. And that's why all my friends was going. And I got sent to this stupid school, magnet school, with a bunch of white people there and and a small football team.
For a guy that didn't want to go there, I mean, I don't know the football side or how many offers you had or how much attention you would receive your junior and senior year, but you graduated early. So clearly, if you didn't want to be there, you definitely had the wits about you and the smarts to say, you know what, let me do what I need to do in order to play football, because ultimately, as you said, it's funny, I read an article where you were talking about a conversation you and your father had, Mr. Lorenzo.
Don't stop messing with me. You going? Yes, you are. You're going to take a shot. I know you're going to take a shot at
Lorenzo. I love Lil Lorenzo, man. I love him. That's my guy. I love him. That's my guy.
Yeah, my dad's short, and DeQuell always be calling him Lil Lorenzo. It's funny.
But I've never called that to his face. I've never called him Lil Lorenzo to his face.
That's
I would not disrespect a man in the military of his stature. I would not do that, but that's been our little inside joke for years. But where was I going? So did you have a ton of, so let me go back to what I was saying. So the conversation, this article I read of a conversation between you and Lil Lorenzo. You were 6 years old and he asked you what you wanted to be. And you were like, a football player. And when I read it, I was like, damn, I don't know if I knew I wanted to play in the NFL at that time. But like, so for you going to a technology school and environmental science school, how did that correlate? Because
I mean, it
was fresh. And now you have these big dreams. How did that kind of manifest itself in high school?
I was angry because so when I was 6 and I told my dad that I was 6, so I really believed it was a real possibility. I imagined that Lil Lorenzo was realistic and probably thought it was unrealistic that I was going to play in football. But it was an interesting thing that he told me. He used that as an opportunity to teach me something that I would need going forward. And he said, all right, well, that's your goal. Make sure you do one thing every day to get closer to your goal.
Yes.
And he used that as an opportunity to teach me rather than saying, how about you get a more realistic goal?
Right.
He taught me that you need to work towards it. And then that night, I remember doing sit-ups. I put my feet underneath the bunk bed so that I wouldn't flip up. And I did sit-ups until my stomach was messed up. And then me and my dad, I had a bad pooping issue that night. And then me and my dad, I just dehydrated the hell out of myself because in my little 6-year-old mind, I was like, I'm going to the NFL right now. I'm gonna do, and so then we had a conversation about moderation. But then I remember I was a good athlete, but I was always small. So like in Pop Warner football, we won the championship. We went down to Disney World. We got destroyed in the national championship game by the Winston-Salem Tiny Vikings. Never forget them because they were not tiny and they destroyed us. But anyway, I was a pretty good football player, but the idea that I was going to play professionally is still a long shot for most people. But in my mind, this is what I'm going to do, play football, until they was like, you're not going to Randallstown. And then I was like, well, how am I going to get a scholarship if I got to go? And I'm not joking when I say the school was new. They had the football team for 2 years before I got there.
Wow.
Their football team was varsity and JV. It was that small. Before I got there, the team would play varsity games and JV games. My first year there was the first year that they had a JV team. So I played JV as a freshman. And then my sophomore year, I started both ways and we were 1-9. So
that's it. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I assumed when I got to, our years of friendship, I just assumed you went to a pretty good competitive high school from a football standpoint.
Nope, so it was trash.
So that leaves me. So that even, kind of speaks to the player that you actually were. And so at one point, what was your offer situation like? Because I want to skip over. I want to get to the football stuff before we dive into the meat of your career that we both are very much interested on. Because you played 7 years in the National Football League, but how did someone? I mean, you had to overcome a lot, it seems like, to just be recognized because the school is fairly new. So what was that situation like for you your senior year?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, we were terrible. I was one of the better players on the team, and we were 1-9. And then my junior year, we went 8-2.
Right.
And I was balling. And so I think that probably helped a lot, is the coach was coach of the year. And so people took notice, like, what the hell is going on over here? Like, this tiny school, they stink. And now all of a sudden they're like competitive. And I think that got me some attention. And that's when the offers started coming. And then you go to camps. That happens a lot too. It's like once people get your attention, they're like, all right, well, you need to go to Penn State football camp. You need to go to Maryland's football camp. You need to go to these football camps. And then you go to football camps, and then you are with the best players because these are other players that are invited to these camps. So it's a lot of kids there that just are paying just to go to football camp because they like football camp. But then there's also a lot of kids that are there like trying to get noticed. And so then I'm at these football camps with these other top players. And then after that, that's when I get like a 5-star ranking and all that stuff because they then see that, hey, yeah, he's not out of place with these guys. And so that's how it came to be. And then senior year went fine. And then I decided to go to Maryland.
Yeah. And that's what leads me to this next point. So you're at Maryland, you graduate early, you start early.
Mm.
What was that like being a young kid, which you could have, you know, took advantage of being a senior in high school and had some time and hang out with your friends and just be a kid before you become a student athlete and everything that comes with that. What was that transition like for a young kid?
It was fine, man. Cause like I'm, you know me, and like we being all professional on here, but you know, I'm a little bit crazy in some ways. And I am finally getting to a point in my life, and having you around as a neighbor has helped finally get to a point in my life where I can enjoy things for the things that they are, rather than like in the past, it was like, I gotta succeed. Like, I'm not happy if I'm not succeeding. I'm not happy if I'm not getting to the next goal. And that's I mean, it's rewarding, but it's a terrible way to live your whole life. So like, I remember when I was, Phillip Rivers, I think the year before I went, was like the first player who left early and went in for spring practices, second half of the senior year. It was the first player that I heard of doing it. And so my high school coach was like, why don't you do that? And we looked into it, and saying I graduated early is a true thing. But then we looked into what it takes, the qualifications to like graduate high school. I ain't do nothing extra. It was just like the bar is pretty low. If you look up at the numbers, you can do it. So then I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, all right, I can get this done. I got it done. I went to Maryland that semester. It was a new thing. So there was not like a program prepared for me to do it. So I have to be honest, it was hard as hell. Like now people do it regularly. So like they have expectations for it. They didn't have a scholarship ready for me. So my parents were paying.
What?
Yeah. They didn't have a scholarship. I didn't get a scholarship until the next fall. So my parents paid for that semester. And I remember getting there. They dropped me off. The next morning I had workouts, and I go into lift weights, and they had to fax my mom and dad a permission slip because I was only 17. And I couldn't lift weights until they faxed back the permission slip.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was getting my ass kicked in spring practice because I was terrible.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I was 153 pounds and getting whooped. And I also remember going to class and thinking it was easy because you're just sitting there. It's not like high school, at least my high school, where there's like worksheets and then there's like homework and whatever. Like, it's like, they just keep you doing stuff. And so I'm sitting in these lectures and I'm like, oh, college is easy. I just sit in here and listen. And then midterms came around and I was like, oh, I was supposed to be taking notes. I was supposed to be paying attention. And I got my ass bust on the midterms. I was able to come back, but I remember just how hard all that was to go through. It was a tough experience.
Yeah. So one of my all-time favorite memories of you is probably one of the first few days or weeks I was on the campus of Maryland.
Was I being an asshole? I feel like I was being.
Were you being an asshole? So I think I've told you this story, but I remember Christina knows this story very well. You were, out of all the people that I've met, this is after the whole hoopla with, the visit is over, and now I'm here. I'm at Maryland, and I'm trying to get acquainted. And I remember meeting you, and I'm from a small city in Florida. The accent was thick. My lingo was on something completely different than any one of you guys had ever heard. And I remember speaking to you, and you gave me this look like, what the? what the hell is he talking about? And you might have said, it was like, I can't even
probably did.
In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm like, this is good. This you, Domonique Foxworth, I'm going to remember your name because at some point you and I going to have some problems. I hated you. I hated you from the first time we met. And it's funny how things kind of go full circle.
I'm sorry.
One of my closest friends and confidants and mentors and all those other good things. But so let's go to some of your earlier years in the National Football League. This is when I realized you were very much so the writer that you've become to be. I read someplace you used to write a diary for the Denver Post, just, expressing your thoughts. And was that your first kind of introduction into writing and kind of fulfilling that passion that you have for?
Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of liked to write, but I never really took it too seriously. So once I was in the NFL, I didn't have class anymore. I didn't have school anymore. And I still had a desire to express myself in some way. So I reached out to the Denver Post and of course they were going to take it. I wasn't asking for no money. I was just giving them a free weekly thing and just to exercise this urge that I had. And so, yeah, it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. It turned out I was a 3rd round pick. And I was the 3rd cornerback drafted to the Broncos that year. And so they had to be thinking okay, whatever. This guy ain't
Darren Williams was the 2nd rounder. Yeah.
Darren Williams. They didn't have a 1st rounder. They got Darren in the 2nd round. Then they got Carl Pema in the 3rd round. And they had a compensatory pick. Right. And they got me with the compensatory pick also in the 3rd round. And so the way things panned out with injuries and with just training camp, I played well. I ended up starting 8 games opposite champ and starting the 2 playoff games. So there was a lot to write about when they probably just thought it was going to be just some boring stories from the sideline.
Yeah. No, you know what? I realized I didn't give you a chance to respond to the previous comment I made.
Oh, yeah.
What do you have anything to say to me?
I do. I'm sorry, DeQuell. I hope that I made it up to you.
I don't need the apology. I don't need the apology.
Hold on. You know me better than that. I was setting you up for the takedown and you ruined it. It was going to be a fake apology.
I know it. That's why I wanted to interrupt. That's why I wanted to interrupt.
No, I was I am an asshole. No, it wasn't.
I realized. No. Look at it. Right now, what I'm doing in front of a microphone, you didn't realize at the time, but I was very much. I was shy. I wouldn't say a word in high school. And when you said that to me, I'm like, oh, I need to put my big boy pants on. I can't. I want to fight him. I really want to, but I was like, this isn't what college, the whole experience is about. Is about meeting other people and learning from other people.
Whatever.
And I had
I was an asshole and I was a bully. I'm sorry about that. But I think I like that you have put a positive spin on it. But that's just hard, man. I think not to excuse myself because I did a lot of mean things.
You were confident.
Yeah, I was. Let me tell you. Hold on. Let me tell you this story. When I first got there, I left this out. That second pass of my senior year of high school, I'm in college, and I show up with the same confidence that you saw, and I'm like, I'm here. The reason why I picked Maryland, I had offers from bigger schools. The reason why I picked Maryland was because they sucked the year before, and I was like, I can start at cornerback immediately. So I get there, and I have all that confidence, talking like that, acting like that. We had boxing gloves in the locker room.
Yes.
And I called, you remember Karom Cox?
Yes.
A damn walking muscle. He was starting at cornerback opposite Tony Okalawan, and Tony was the better player at the time. So I called Karom out as a high school senior and was like, I'm gonna take his spot. And I called him out because everyone's boxing. And I was like, I'm gonna box him.
Right.
I want to thank Karom. I've done it before. I want to thank him because he took the bout. And it did not take long for him to hit me with the fastest, hardest hook I'd ever been hit with in my life. And I was dazed. He didn't put me to sleep, but I was dazed. And I want to thank him for not finishing. he did not come back with another blow. So I'll have you know that what I did to you while laughing at the way that you talked was better than what happened to me. How I got put in my place, because CC rocks my shit, and it was.
Oh man, that I remember those days. I remember I had to box Leon Joe.
Oh,
Leon Joe was the linebacker version of Cologne Cox. He was a walking muscle.
Yeah,
and I remember I thought I had never put a pair of gloves on before in my life, and I must have maybe grazed his nose. And I remember just a flurry of just body shots. I was like, and I played it off, but yeah, it was a humbling experience. I get that. So I get it. It makes sense now. It really does. So so let's get to, I know you follow the news. I know you this is what, part of your job description is following what happens in sports. So I don't know if you follow the WNBA, but I noticed something recently that came out about the owner. So basically, Joe Tsai is the co-founder of Alibaba. Am I saying that right? Yes.
Yep.
And so he's the owner of the Brooklyn Nets and the owner of the New York Liberty. I don't know if you read the latest article about.
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, just how they were fined for chartering flights for the WNBA team on the second part of the year. So this is, maybe it was new to me, but I found that very just disturbing. I know we're in Women's History Month right now. So this whole notion that there's a competitive advantage of taking care of your athletes who are doing all the labor, who you're profiting off of, a chartered flight, that seems excessive. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it probably is a competitive advantage, and that's the reason why you should do it. Like you're trying to get it, like, yeah, and it is disturbing for a number of reasons. But the idea that they want to, like, as much as I hate a salary cap or hate any of those things that suppress wages or encourage teams to mistreat their players, like it's not written into CBAs. The idea that they are writing in, like, you can't give them too much, don't treat them too good, is outrageous to me, especially when you're considering this some sort of investment. Like, okay, the WNBA is not a cash cow at this moment, but no startup is. And WNBA is still in like the growing phase.
Right.
And it's important to invest in that. Yes. If you want people to watch it, if you want people to appreciate it, not only do you need to market it, not only do you need to get the best talent, but you treat that talent well. And yes, the idea that right now, while they're trying to grow, that they also want to suppress costs, to me seems counterintuitive, because what you do when you're trying to grow a startup or grow any business is you don't suppress costs, you invest in it. And this to me feels like an opportunity to invest in the players and make the product better, to ensure that the women aren't incentivized, the best players aren't incentivized to go play in Europe, that they play in the W. Like, all that makes sense to me. It seems illogical to try to undercut any of that.
Yeah, and especially it's off of the heels of this big $75 million, effort to push the game globally.
Right.
When I read that article, it was like, okay, so what's being invested to the players? To me, it's just a lot. There's a lot that's going on within the WNBA that's just mind-blowing to me, that a professional team, these professional elite athletes that are women, are sitting middle seats in Southwest flights. That sounds ridiculous to me. And especially when you have an owner like Joe Tsai, who basically was at the center of the social justice kind of movement. And, he started a social justice fund, and he's been outspoken about some of the things that he's done. And so it just seems like here's a guy who understands business, who wants to push the envelope, and everything that you said, it just seems counterintuitive. You're right.
Seems like they should be on the other end, is like penalizing teams who don't treat their athletes well enough. Like, penalizing teams for being too good to the labor, to me, feels repressive and stupid.
Yeah, I agree. So another article that everyone's talking about. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with this gentleman on a handful of occasions, Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson is, first of all, let me, and you know this, but I'm married to a woman that is from one of the best historically Black colleges. That's Howard University. That's my wife, Christina. Both of her parents are graduates from Howard University, which is a HBCU. The fact that Hugh Jackson thought it was remotely okay to have a guy stand in front of Black men, Black young men at HBCUs where the culture, the education of Blackness is prevalent. You thought it was okay for this guy to lead men which the guy hadn't, Art Browse is who I'm talking about. He hadn't had a job in over 6 years. And for people who don't know the story, he was attached to this sexual assault scandal in Baylor, which he pretty much overlooked allegations of more than too many of his athletes were involved in allegations of sexual misconduct. And he thought it was okay for him. Hugh Jackson thought it was okay that this guy given a second chance, which I am a component of, but the timing of it, when Hugh Jackson was having his media, circuit of saying that he had been a part of another scandal of being incentivized to lose games and how unfair it is as a Black head coach, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts about any of those things?
Yeah, I mean, Art Browse at Baylor, like he was a party to some really horrible cover up there. And certainly it's not a defense of Art Browse, but like there are a lot of people at that institution who deserve to pay a price for what went on there. Like it was an institutional problem, not an Art Browse problem, if that makes sense. Like he was part of this machine, and he was probably the biggest and most like recognizable part of it. And that's a lot of reason why he paid the price. But I do think that sometimes when we talk about it, we think that Art Browse was the only guy at Baylor allowing this to happen. Like, no, it was the entire university. And frankly, in large part fueled by a culture. Like we're coming off talking about how the women athletes are being mistreated in the WNBA. Like it's a societal problem. Like our country does not respect women. Like it's just be honest. And like as Black men, I can see some parallels in how our country in general like undervalues, underappreciates, and mistreats Black people. So like there are plenty of issues for us to focus on there, and Art Browse has to pay a price for what he's done there. But I do think the point that you brought up is the most important one. For Hugh Jackson is, how could you be so wrong on so many different optical fronts? Like it's not a good look to bring in Art Browse because of Art Browse's history. It's also not a good look to bring in a white coach weeks after you were on ESPN saying that Black coaches don't get fair opportunities. Like not only did you go find a white coach, and Art Browse is a hell of a football mind. Like I understand the reason why you want to have a guy like Art Browse in there, but not only did you go and give an opportunity to a white coach, which like to suggest that there are no Black coaches that have the expertise that Art Browse has or the ability to reach that level, like that's an issue. To do that, and on top of the sexual assault stuff, like if you wanted to hire a white coach who ain't linked to this. And if you wanted to, and you should probably not, I guess the point, someone with the talent and expertise of Art Browse, Gramblin's going to have a hard time getting that guy to be the offensive coordinator unless he's coming off of a scandal. But I do think that there are Black coaches who may not have reached the level of success that Art Browse have, who have comparable ability. And if the other Black coaches are not going to look for him and find him, then who the hell is?
Right. That's a great point, and that's well said. I want to change gears for a second, and I want to go back to just basically your family, because I have a very, if you don't know Domonique and whatever you whatever impression you may have of him on ESPN, on Get Up, First Take, and some of his articles he's been a part of, you may think he's a bright individual. He's an intelligent guy. But to be quite honest with you, he's probably the least intelligent of his household. Because his wife, Ashley, is brilliant mother, brilliant personality, but she is extremely smart.
Yeah.
So much so, when Mr. Foxworth, as he was the youngest vice president of the executive committee of the Players Association, which led to him ultimately becoming the president of the NFL Players Association, which ultimately led to him going to Harvard and receiving his MBA. So did his wife. And before that, she had a law degree from from Harvard. And he has 3 beautiful children. His oldest, Avery, is an absolute godsend. She's a saint. Declan is like any other boy. He's like Domonique reincarnated, but just he has the world figured out. And Emerson, she wants to be Declan, but she's just a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart. But can I tell this quick story of Avery, your oldest? Can I tell this story, please?
Feel free.
So Domonique is a neighbor, and so we spend time together, our families, and we were over his house. We were down in his mansion of a house, and we were in the kitchen area, and we were hanging out doing what adults do. And all of a sudden, I heard this music coming from upstairs, and it wasn't hip hop, it wasn't R&B, it wasn't country, it wasn't any of those things. It was a symphony. It was a symphony playing. And to me, I know Domonique, I know his wife, I know what music he listens to. So I decided to follow this strange music that I really wouldn't hear in my household. So I followed this music, and lo and behold, it's the beautiful and the one and only, his oldest daughter, Avery. And not only she's in her room and she has a symphony playing in the background, but not only that, she's sitting on her bed or couch or whatever it is, and she's reading. But she's not just reading Paw Patrol or what kids read, right? How old is Avery?
She's 11 now.
She's 11. She was probably 9, 10 at the time. She's sitting on a couch or bed, and she's reading a story of Black women. It was like a Maya Angelou book, and it just talked about all the powerful Black women that we've been blessed with. And I just remember sitting there and thinking, my jaw dropped. I'd never seen this before. And I asked her, I'm like, hey, Avery, how are you? She was like, how are you doing, DeQuell? I was like, I'm fine. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm just reading. And I was like, you're a saint. And I think I walked out. And I've been telling this story for years, but she's an absolute saint, man. How blessed are you to have such a smart family that, you're just a beautiful family, man. And just having kids that mirror you and Ashley, it's got to be a blessing.
She's not like either of us. She's different, but she listens to all the other stuff too, all the cussy music that you would expect her not to listen to.
She's mature.
Yeah, she listens to that too. So it's not just like symphonies playing over here. She's a special young lady. But let me tell you about the kid that makes me most proud. Mm-hmm. It's your son, because I take full responsibility. Like I put you and Christina together, and I'm so happy that I could see the vision that my little man King is here. Yeah. I'm not his godfather, but he knows that I am just as responsible as everybody else in that family for him being here. He's a cute little monster, and I love him to death, and I can't wait to see him again.
Yes, let's clarify. I made my child, but
yeah. I ain't do the sweating. It's just that I did that. Yeah. At my wedding, I invited Christina was a friend of my wife, so she invited Christina, and I invited obviously my friends. DeQuell was one of them, and we had a single table, and we put Oh, it was a great table. I still talk to some of my friends and teammates back then. Like, that was the best wedding they ever been to. But we had a singles table, and they met at the singles table, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. So I have you to thank for that. I really do. I'm forever indebted to you, my friend.
Nah, you good. I had to make up for making fun of you when I was 19 or whatever.
You made up. Apologies. So what's now that football season is over? The LA Rams were crowned the best team in football. What does your work schedule look like now that you're not commuting from the DC area to New York? What is your work life balance look like?
I'm getting back to that real soon because, as you know, football never stops. So free agency period is opening up soon. So I'll be back up in New York on Mondays doing get up and stuff for that. And also I'm trying to dive into some draft prep because I'm going to go out to Vegas and do I think an online draft show for that. And yeah, and also I'm working on this other project where I'm writing for a TV show. So I'm keeping busy while also trying to be a decent father and husband. The routine.
No, you're doing a fantastic job, man. Oh, so I know what I wanted to bring up with you. Yes.
I don't like
so that. I'm a fan of. I'm a good friend of yours, and I watch you when you're working, when you're on national television. I pay attention because you bring something to the table. But you were on the podcast.
Here we go.
Yeah. No.
I knew you set me up for something.
No. It's easy. It's simple. You can't be blindsided about anything. You're a pro at that. So you on Face First with Ryan Clark and the big swagoo walking motivational speaker. That's what you guys found. So you guys talked about, particularly in sports and as an analyst, Wednesdays it's like a rough day. And you guys coined it Cultural Wednesdays. And you guys brought up a moment that was pretty fascinating to me. My question to you, how did that start? Because you guys talked about a situation, and I didn't actually see this particular segment about Paul Feinbaum, who I think is a great college analyst, and it's fun hearing him, his anecdotes and the way his mind works. What the hell happened? At that moment where, like, what happened with that?
Yeah, so it was we were doing some like quick little segments where we were giving opinions on people, and what happened was Paul had given his opinion on Eli Manning, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but his opinion on Eli Manning was very like favorable and positive, which is fine. And then the immediate following segment was about Cam Newton, and it was like a positive thing about Cam Newton, but he pivoted from that to just like kind of challenging Cam Newton's character, and it seemed pretty obvious to all of us, the inconsistency. So Ryan called him out because I couldn't get there fast enough. He beat me to the microphone because it was something that, and like to your point, like I don't dislike Paul. I don't know him, but like I'm around him enough. He's a likable, nice guy. But if we're not going to call out our own unconscious or conscious bias, then and be there for each other and I remember after the show, people from the network reached out to say thank you, because I think other people saw it, and had we just let it slide, like that would have been a lot worse for him and all of us. But we called it out and made it funny, but also addressed it. And I think, again, like I don't know Paul, know him, but from the time I spend around Paul, like I don't feel like he's an evil person, but we all have unconscious bias, and his was showing. And we felt like it was important to let him know that it was happening, because we are on TV. And it's something that I talked to when I first started doing TV. When I left football, I never wanted to do TV. That's why I went to business school, because I was like, I kind of looked down on football players. Like, you can't do nothing but play football, and then you talk about football. And I didn't want to be that guy. But I talked to some of my other friends who were in other parts of the world, and they're like, you know what? Like, the power of being on television every day, like the impact that you can have is huge. And like just being there and being smart and being confident and being like unafraid to show your blackness and like not trying to like code switch to make white people comfortable. It's like showing all the things like you can speak in slang, you can make references or allusions to I'm gonna get you sucker, and still also like be informed, and like that has value. And then on top of it, to be able to call out these things that we all sit home and watch. And the conversation that came out of afterwards was important to me to express to people that what Paul was doing there is not something new. The new part was it being called out. Because like we've seen this stuff when we watch it at home or in barbershops or whatever, and we look at each other like, you see that racist shit? Like that's and now we can be in the place to call it out. So like whenever I get down on myself about like being a talking head on TV, I remind myself that like it has value. And every now and then, the best thing that one of the best byproducts of doing this job is some old black people come up to me every now and then. Happened at the grocery store a couple weeks ago. An old black lady who was stocking the shelves. I asked her for something, and then she came and found me again. It's like, I thought that was you. I just want to say, keep doing your thing and keep giving them hell. Let them know. And I know what she's talking about. And that just, I ain't telling ESPN to stop paying me, but that feels like it's better than the payment.
Yeah, of course not. And I feel like they've laid a platform for that conversation to happen, because you couldn't avoid it with the George Floyd incident and how professional teams were getting involved and outspoken about issues that affected them directly. It was very important to have the different personalities of a passionate swagoo and a funny and quippy Ryan Clark. And then you have you on there that kind of puts a bow on it all. You have humor, you have the education, you have the history behind it. And it also means something to you because, listen, living in this area and being with the women that we're with and their families, you know, it's important to educate yourself on our history. You know, that's very important.
These families, man, it's nice that I got you.
Yeah, no, listen, likewise, man.
You and I see eye to eye. Like the worst thing, and the worst thing that they see, or the worst person in their family is like a lawyer. I'm like, man, the worst dude in my family been behind bars for many years now.
Right, but it works. It's so beautiful way it works, because two different backgrounds are able to see commonalities in each other and their their values. So I'm thinking, you know, you've been such a what do you want to do next? Have you given it much thought? Because you're dominant. You're not going to say this, but let me say this. You've been dominating. You're dominating the space that you're in. And let me give you your flowers for a second, because there aren't many talents, public figures that are able to.
This is uncomfortable.
I know it is. And that's why I know you hate it. And that's why I'm going to take my time and pour it out. A slow drip.
I'm losing service. My Wi-Fi is breaking down.
Don't you worry. I'll still talk. But I think it's unique that you have someone in your position who was extremely gifted in football. You played, 7 seasons in the National Football League? Yeah, I love this. You're feeling uncomfortable. Yes. Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. And the ability to be able to deliver messages and be able to articulate it very well, but also have the ability to write pieces. So that's very rare. And I don't know if a lot of people understand just how difficult it is being on national television every single day, where I'm sure the production meetings are at 4 or 5 in the morning, and you have to be able to be present. So I have to give you your flowers while you're here. And I appreciate your work. So I'm going to be that old black man that's telling you, you know, you speak for a lot of us. I'm glad you're speaking for a lot of us. Because I would say some stuff that they will probably have to, hey, this isn't going to work. But,
You got it. And like having editors really helps with the writing part. Like you and I have the same conversations. I think you haven't had to practice writing, but if you did, you would, because it's not like we're talking, like I'm speaking a language that you don't understand. Like you and I have the same like level of thought, just you didn't put in the effort to like learn how to write. And all that is just time. It's like with anything. I was spent the time doing it. You could do the same thing, and the same thing with the TV show. Like you talk about you hosting this damn thing, running it, doing the research all by yourself. Like you could do all this shit too. It ain't that hard.
You know what? I realized, because I enjoy it when I played. I could watch film to the wheel. I would fall asleep watching film. So this like kind of scratches that itch of man. I get to research and find out about who I'm talking to, and then I'm having a conversation.
Yeah, but the skills are transferable. And as far as like what's next, like honestly, it feels silly to try to make like a plan, because I mean everything for the last several years, none of it's really gone according to plan. And even when it felt like it was going according to plan, things went off track. So like when I signed my big deal to go play in Baltimore, where I grew up, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna win a Super Bowl. I'm gonna be the man in my home city. I tore my ACL and I never quite fully recovered. And off of that injury, like you think, damn, that's a sad time. It was sad. It was difficult, but it gave me time to get more involved in the union, which when I got involved in the union and did the negotiations, then that opened my eyes to like, I thought before that, like in order to be like in business, like I thought they were as special, like the owners were as special as we were as players. Like I thought that in order to make that much money and be that powerful, you must have been like the smartest.
Sure.
Just like we were like exceptional athletes. Then I realized like, no, this is like, they're not dumb, but like a lot of it is luck and hard work. And I can work hard and hope things pan out for me too. So that's when I shifted my focus to business school. Then I'm going to business school. Like, all right, I'm going to leave and I'm going to work my way up and be like a CEO of a company. But then I get out and I go to MBPA and I don't like it. I'm working too much. I'm away from the family. And so I go home and I go back to writing, and I just start writing stuff because I have free time, because I quit and we moved back to DC from New York. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home dad. Like that just because that was what my thought was. Like, I'm not spending time with family. So I was like, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna spend so much more time with family. And I'm doing that. And I'm like, nah, I'm unhappy, which is making me like a worse parent. So then I started writing and sending stuff to places to get published. And then it started getting published. Then ESPN was like, hey, you want to come on and do some radio stuff? And so like, it wasn't part of the plan. And now, like I told you, I'm writing this TV stuff now. I didn't, at no point did I think I was going to be like a script writer, but like they're working on a sports related thing and they wanted someone who had some experience, expertise. And I'm doing that every day. So like, who the hell knows where to end up?
Right. You've inspired me during COVID for sure. Cause we spent a lot of, everyone spent a lot of time home with their families and within their thoughts. So I actually, you don't know this, we had a conversation. I was over your house in the basement. You were doing some work. I was doing some work. And I started, through that conversation, I started writing. Like, I was like, one day I woke up like, let me write about where it all started. Right. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't know where this is going. And I say that to say, a few weeks ago, a good friend of mine he's the comms director, talking to him about writing. And he gave me a great concept of a starting point, because I told him I come to a point where I just couldn't, I needed some strategy. I needed a plan at this point. And he was like, start from the end. Start from the end and work your way back. And you'll be amazed at how much content comes from that. And now you can start to like chapter things out, and it was like mind blowing. Yeah. So that's definitely something that I've taken, a recent interest on. But what I know you're a reader. Any books that you're reading right now that's got your attention?
Yeah, I just finished a couple of them. So there's one called How to Be Perfect. That's by this TV writer guy who also It's a philosophy book, so it's just about making decisions. It's short, it's good. I like that. And then there's another book. Yeah. There's another book called Dark Matter that's a little bit older, but it's a novel that's like it's a sci-fi book, but with most great sci-fi books, it's like about more than just like the aliens or whatever. So there are no aliens in this one. It's kind of about time travel, but it's really, the story is really about regret and valuing the life that you live, because this guy is able to like jump across different timelines essentially and go see different lives that other versions of him would have lived had he made different decisions. And so like it starts out, the beginning of the book, it's called Dark Matter. The beginning of the book starts out with him with a son and a wife, and like he's cool, everything's okay, but he's a really great scientist, and he's like imagining what life would have been like had he not gotten married and had a child, and had he leaned into the science stuff. And and so like he's having that, and I think we all have those thoughts, you know, like maybe not about a relationship, but I think often, or in the past, I've thought like, had I made a different decision, like how would things be different? So it was just an interesting book because it like forced me to explore those things. Yeah, it's called Dark Matter. Check it out. They got audio version too.
Yeah, I'm an audio, and I'm a little bit of both. I'm an audio guy.
Yeah.
So
same thing.
I'm gonna get you out of here. I know you're busy, but I just got a few more questions for you.
You got it.
A little bit more entertaining. But you talked about earlier. You talked about your humbling experience with Carone in college, which led to you being sold to me when we first met. But did you have that moment when you got to the NFL where did you have, which guys did you lean on? Because I went back and checked the roster of guys you played with. Champ Bailey, Hall of Famer. John Lynch, Hall of Famer. Dre Bly was a steward.
Pro Bowl,
was a Pro Bowler. You know, was there a moment? Do you remember a moment when you had that aha moment? It's like, damn, I'm a kid amongst grown men.
So I mean, I had the opposite experience, honestly, where it's like when I got drafted the third round, I had people over the house, so it was supposed to be a celebration, but it wasn't a celebration for me. Like everyone else was happy, but I was like, now work starts. You know, like now, and so then I got to Denver and was like, it was like college all over again, except I wasn't dumb enough to try to fight somebody in the locker room. But I was like, I'm going to fight on this field every day. And Jerry Rice, we brought in Jerry Rice that year. He ended up not making the team. And we brought him in. And I remember early on in training camp, I was like, I looked up Jerry Rice when I was a kid. I watched him. Yeah, he was the man. And I was lined up across from him. And I was like, I'm going to give this old man the blues. And I gave that old man the blues. So it was like an opposite of welcome to the NFL moment. Where I was like, and it was during one-on-ones. And I remember everyone being crowded around. My parents came out and they're watching practice. And I remember everyone was crowded around, and all the like fans were there like, oh, Jerry Rice is here. Jerry Rice is here. Man, jam that dude into next week. And he ended up retiring later on in training camp. I think he wasn't going to make the team after 20 years of like being the best receiver in the history of the game. So like, I'm by no means am I saying that I'm better than Jerry Rice.
No, what you're saying,
40-year-old Jerry Rice, I was going to give him the blues, and I did.
What I'm hearing is, and what you're saying is, you retired Jerry Rice from the Denver Broncos, from the NFL, pretty much. That's a hell of a way to welcome yourself to the National Football League. No, that's great.
The moment that you're talking about was just like doing anything next to Champ. Like he was there, so like I looked up to him. We were still pretty good friends, and we were great friends back then. But he would do stuff, and it's like you hear about like Michael Jordan or something, where he would look around or I think Barry Bonds is one of those examples where he tried to become a hitting coach, and he couldn't be a hitting coach because because people couldn't do the stuff that he could do. And I would try to like model my game after Champ because he's the best in football. He's right here. And I realized pretty quickly, it's a waste of time. Like I can't. Like my body can't do those things, and my brain does not work as fast as his. Like I just can't. I need to find somebody else. I need to find a different way to play, because the way that I'm gonna play is not gonna be the way he plays.
Right. Wow. I've heard only one other player talk like that, and that was Mike Adams, aka Pops. I played with him probably more than any other player throughout my 11 years in the National Football League. And guess who he talked about having that moment with? Was Champ Bailey.
Yeah.
So there must be a common thread to these Hall of Famers and guys that what was it? Was it his hips? Was it like the?
It was that he could do everything. You know, like, and he was also big. Like he was like 6'1", 190, and also was as quick as like a slot receiver and as fast as like a speedster. Like he could do it all, and it also in his. I hesitate to say that it was like instinct, because that suggests that it wasn't about study or anything, but like he was smart,
right? And
like it just. I remember my rookie year, he had 8 or 10 interceptions. And so imagine this. He's starting at corner on one side and a 3rd round drafted rookie starting at the corner on the other side. I got work. And so I played well. I had a great rookie season, but I was getting that work. They would throw at him 3 times a game. This boy somehow managed to end up with 10 interceptions. And like, it just was.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen. Mathematically, that shouldn't happen. Yeah,
it was just incredible. And I think that you would, just because he had uncommon athleticism, you would think that you were open and you weren't.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And so like I'd be watching film on him and like he would jam somebody to the line of scrimmage and I'm thinking, all right. So all I got to do is move my feet laterally. Then I go try to do it, but I can't do it that quickly. Like I can't.
Right.
So yeah, that's what it boiled down to.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I appreciate the time, brother.
For sure,
but I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the workout session on Saturday. Yeah. We have a little kiddie outing for the school. But Domonique, I thank you for your time and your perspective as always, brother. I really appreciate it. I'm sure I'll see you soon, or come by the house on the weekend and get the Cinnabons?
Oh yeah, yeah. So we had to start. Summer's coming. We had to start making those. My wife's homemade cinnamon rolls. We had to stop making them because summer's coming. I can't. I gotta fit into my bathing suit.
Stop it. You're still the same. You're still the same size. I'm so. This is what pisses me off about you. You're still the same. You still have the same athletic build. It still looks like you're playing. Me, I have to work out every day. Every day. In order for me to lose weight, I have to stop drinking wine or whiskey, stop smoking cigars. There's a assertive effort. So don't talk about weight around me. Don't do
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you were a much better football player than me, so you got that. You can hold it over my head. I'm slim.
I don't want to hold that over your head.
But you got Pro Bowls under your belt.
I want to be a great writer.
Yeah, because that's what all little boys grow up. All 6-year-old boys. Like, man, I can't wait to write for a paper. Like, no, we want to be great football players, and that's what you were.
It pays the bills. That's all that matters. It pays the bills. But I get you out of here, Domonique. Nick, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, brother. So there you have it. My good friend and neighbor, Domonique Foxworth, blessed us with his time throughout his busy schedule. He's a man of faith. He's a man of integrity. He's a man that's on a mission. And he's been a great mentor to me from the very first moment I met him. I hated him, but as things came full circle, he's one of the smartest people I know, and one of the passionate people I know, and one of the most honest. And I think that is what he was at such an early age that he may not necessarily understand, but it was intimidating to some. But as we become adults, as I sit here as a 38-year-old man, it makes things easier when you can be honest. And that's one thing that he wears on his sleeve is honesty. And he's not going to hide from it. He's not going to shy away from it. And he's a fun guy. And he's one of the people I can't say enough about that I look up to this day. And he's a mentor and a beautiful family. And I'm lucky to have him and his family and Lil Lorenzo and his mother in our lives. So thanks for tuning in.